Title: When the millionaire farmer acquires a deaf girl, he's shocked to learn she can hear. Chapter 1: The Mysterious Beginning. From the very first moment, an eerie silence hung over the old farmhouse, broken only by the faint rustle of leaves stirred by an unseen breeze. Strange shadows flickered across the cracked walls, as if the house itself held secrets desperate to be uncovered. Every creak of the floorboards echoed like a whispered warning, while outside, the distant howl of a lone wolf sent chills down the spine. Something was undeniably wrong, a hidden truth lurking just beneath the surface, waiting to unravel. The air grew thick with anticipation as unexplained lights danced in the darkness, and the townsfolk's hushed rumors spoke of an ancient curse that no one dared to challenge. Each strange occurrence piled upon the last, weaving a tangled web of mystery that pulled the reader deeper into the story, craving to know what sinister forces were at play. Hey, before we continue with this incredible story, I need to give you an important alert. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without warning. Just take a quick look at the red button down below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content coming your way. And since you're here, drop that powerful like that helps me so much with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love meeting every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact! If you like stories about farmers, about everyday life on the farm, and want to know what really happens in the daily lives of the biggest farmers in the world, the hidden stories of the richest owners, and the secrets of the farm girls that the media doesn't reveal, check out our virtual book with the most famous and secret stories from the farm. Click on the first link in the video comments and get yours now. Chapter 2: The Shocking Revelation. Just as the strange lights flickered again, casting shadows that danced along the walls, a loud crash broke the silence. Startled, the sound tore through the air like a knife, making hearts race and pulses quicken. Out of nowhere, a figure stumbled into the room, dust swirling around the newcomer like a storm. It was Clara, the deaf girl who had recently been taken in by the millionaire farmer Henry. Her eyes were wild, wide with fear, and her breath came in quick, frantic gasps. But something was different. Something in her posture. Clara wasn't just trembling. She was trembling with an urgency that shot through the room like lightning. The dim light revealed a streak of crimson running down her arm. The sight sent shockwaves through Henry. It twisted his stomach and made his breath hitch. "Clara, what happened?" he yelled, his voice rising in panic. The farmhouse felt smaller, suffocating. Clara's throat bobbed as she struggled to speak, her wide eyes darting around like trapped birds. She opened her mouth as if to scream, but no sound came. Henry rushed forward, his hands reaching out to steady her. "It's okay. I'm here." He pressed a hand to her shoulder, forcing her to look at him. "Just breathe. What did you see?" She pointed behind her, her hands moving frantically, forming shapes in the air. Suddenly, her eyes widened even more, filled with an expression of horror. She pressed her hands to her ears, and for a brief moment, Henry thought she might break down in tears. Then she dropped her hands, and a choked sob escaped her lips. He found me." Those words echoed in the empty farmhouse like a gunshot. The urgency of her statement left the air thick with dread. "Who found you?" Henry demanded, his chest tightening, every nerve in his body screaming for answers. But before Clara could respond, another crash sounded from outside. The windows rattled as something heavy thudded against the door. Henry's heart thundered in his chest. Fear gripped him with icy fingers. Henry's shirt, her fingers shaking as if she were clinging to the very edge of sanity. "You need to run!" she gasped, her voice barely above a whisper, but the urgency sliced through the noise around them. "He's coming for me!" Just then, as if summoned by her words, the front door burst open. A tall silhouette stepped inside, blocking the faint light from outside. Henry's breath caught in his throat. The figure was cloaked in shadows, but there was something unmistakably familiar about him, something crushingly recognizable. It was Thomas, Henry's estranged brother, a man thought long lost to the dark shadows of their family's past. "What are you doing here?" Henry shouted, disbelief choking his voice as Thomas's. Cold eyes met his. "You're not supposed to be in this part of the world." "Don't act so surprised," Thomas sneered, stepping forward with an air of casual menace. "This is family business, Henry, and Clara." He tilted his head, a cruel smile spreading across his lips. "She's more connected to our family than you know." Clara gasped, her expression shifting from terror to confusion. The room felt like it was spinning, a whirlpool of tangled emotions and buried secrets. Henry felt the floor shift beneath him, an earthquake of betrayal trembling through the very foundation of everything he believed. "No, it can't be," Clara whispered, trembling. The truth loomed like a storm cloud, ready to break. Friends, foes, and family all twisted together in a tangled mess as he stood there, caught in the middle. And in that moment, the darkness in the farmhouse felt alive, whispering secrets that had long been buried. What did Thomas mean? What connection did Clara have to the shadows of their past? As the weight of those questions hung in the air, the urgent need for answers wrapped around him like chains, pulling him deeper into the unknown. Chapter 3. The Unraveling Truth. The room felt like it was closing in, shadows thickening around them like a blanket of dread. Thomas stood there, eyes glinting in the dim light, and Henry's heart raced. "What do you mean connected?" He searched Clara's face, looking for a flicker of understanding, but all he saw was horror written across her features. "You really don't know, do you?" Thomas drawled, a cruel twist to his lips that made Henry's skin crawl. "Clara isn't just some girl you found. Well, let's just say she's part of our family legacy. Our mother wasn't just a farmer's wife. She was a keeper of secrets, and Clara is one of those secrets." The words hit Henry like a punch to the gut. Secrets? What was he even hearing? The farmhouse trembled as a flash of lightning illuminated Thomas's face, revealing a twisted satisfaction in his dark eyes. Clara's breath quickened, each gasp like a beat of panic. Strung together, her fingers still clutching Henry's shirt. "No, that can't be true!" Clara shouted, her voice rising to a pitch of desperation. The intensity in her eyes turned to a storm of fear. "I don't know what you're talking about! I'm not a secret!" Henry felt a rush of emotions, confusion, anger, betrayal, bubbling in his chest. He turned to Clara, his mind racing. What does he mean? What do you know? Panic twisted through him as Clara's eyes darted to Thomas. Then back to him, searching for something, an ally, an escape. A low rumble echoed outside, a warning from the storm brewing. Thunder rolled, shaking the house. It felt like an omen, warning them of impending doom. That's when Clara staggered back, her eyes wide as if a ghost had brushed past her. "You have to listen, Henry," she cried. "There's more. I heard voices. I could hear them. And they were talking about—" Suddenly, a deafening crash came from the kitchen. Henry's heart stopped. What was happening? "Stay here," he shouted, releasing Clara's grip, bolting toward the noise. He could hear Clara's shaky breaths behind him, the weight of her fear almost palpable in the air. The kitchen door swung open, revealing a scene straight out of a nightmare. The table was overturned, chairs scattered like dolls tossed carelessly aside. But what made Henry freeze in place was not the chaos. It was the sight of a dark figure standing over the broken glass. He had come to meet them. "Thomas," Henry's voice trembled as he stepped back. "You brought him here, didn't you?" Before Thomas could respond, the figure turned to reveal a twisted face, eyes glinting with madness. "I've been waiting for you, Henry," the figure sneered. "And I see you've brought your little secret with you." Clara's breath caught in her throat. That voice was familiar, yet laced with a horrible chill that made every hair on Henry's body stand on end. "No, it can't be," he whispered, realization crashing over him in waves. The figure stepped into the light, and Henry felt a surge of disbelief. It couldn't be. "Rachel?" he gasped. The sister they thought lost, gone in an accident, stood there, eyes gleaming with something dark and unfathomable. Clara shrieked, stumbling back into a wall, her eyes filled with pleading confusion. "You're not human," she gasped, and the truth crashed down like a cold wave. Thomas laughed, a sound that twisted the air. "Oh, but she is very much alive. And now it's time to settle the family business." As Rachel's twisted smile grew wider, Henry's heart sank. He could feel the weight of betrayal closing in around him, a grip tightening around his throat. "What did you do to her?" he shouted, desperate. But Rachel's eyes glimmered with mischief as the air crackled with tension. "Let's just say that. We all have parts to play in this little family reunion." Henry felt the room spin and the walls close in. Clara looked between them, confusion morphing into panic. "What's happening? Please, someone tell me." But as laughter echoed through the broken walls of the farmhouse, all Henry could think was that everything had just changed, and there was no turning back now. What had he stumbled into? What dark truth loomed just beyond the veil, waiting to be exposed? Chapter 4: The Shattering Truth. The air crackled, confusion swirling like the storm outside. Rachel's twisted smile sent a chill through Henry. Clara cowered behind him, eyes wide, breathing fast, each inhale laced with fear. "What did you do to her?" he shouted again, voice rising, cracking under pressure. "Oh, I didn't do anything to her," Rachel responded, her voice sweet like honey but dripping with poison. "She was always meant to come back, just like Clara was meant to be here. None of this is an accident, Henry. You've played right into our hands. What do you mean, our hands? Panic clawed at Henry's insides. He looked at Clara. A mix of confusion and terror mirrored in her eyes. What does this mean? As thunder crashed outside, Rachel took a slow step forward, eyes glinting with madness. It was never just a family reunion, dear brother. It's about a legacy you can't even begin to comprehend. And then it happened. A blinding flash of light filled the kitchen, illuminating everything for a terrifying second. It engulfed them all, a surreal moment where reality wavered. Clara's screams echoed in his ears, drowning in the brightness. Henry raised an arm to shield his eyes, heart racing. When the light faded, everything changed. Clara was gone. Henry's heart sank. "Clara? Clara!" he shouted, panic igniting inside him. The kitchen felt emptier than before. Where had she gone? He turned to Rachel, desperation flashing in his eyes. "What did you do to her? Where is she?" "Oh, she's safe. For now," Rachel said with a cold smile that sent a shiver down his spine. "But you see, it's not just about Clara. It's about the blood. The power runs deep in this family, deeper than you can imagine. And Clara? She has a role to play." "Bull!" Henry yelled, fists clenching. "You'll never take her away from me." His voice trembled with anger and fear, fighting to maintain a facade of control. Rachel chuckled softly, the sound chilling. "You don't even understand the game being played. Clara's part is essential. You'll regret fighting against this." Her words hung in the air like a dense fog that suffocated hope. Just then, a low rumble echoed through the walls, like a distant growl. The lights flickered erratically, and Henry felt the cold grip of dread seize him. Something was coming. A sinister force loomed, waiting to break free. Then he saw it. A letter, lying on the floor, illuminated by the shifting light. His heart raced as he picked it up, fingers trembling. The scrawl was familiar, the signature unmistakable. "Mother?" he gasped, eyes widening in shock. The letter was dated years ago, filled with words that sent his mind spiraling. It spoke of a hidden truth, a pact made decades before he was even born. A legacy tied to Clara, binding them together in ways he couldn't fathom. "This can't be real," he whispered, disbelief swirling in his stomach. "Read it, Henry," Rachel beckoned, her voice a whisper of sweet poison. "It will change everything you thought you knew. The truth will set you free, but it might shatter you, too." With a sinking heart, he glanced back at where Clara had stood just moments before. Time felt suspended, and with every beat of his heart, the reality of her absence hammered home. What if he'd lost her to this nightmare? What if she was part of something far darker than he could understand? As he opened his mouth to shout her name again, the room suddenly warped around him. Another blinding flash erupted, and all Henry could feel was a terrifying emptiness where Clara should have been, and a horrible realization that the bonds of family could weave a web of chaos he might never escape. The storm outside raged on, but now it felt like shadows were closing in around him, the truth gnashing at the edges of his comprehension. What lay hidden in the heart of this family legacy? And what if Clara wasn't the only one whose fate had already been sealed? Chapter 5: The Devastating Truth. The air grew colder, thick with uncertainty. Henry's heart raced as he clutched the letter, but the words blurred in his vision. Clara was gone. He felt his grip tighten as his chest constricted, panic surging through him. "Where is she?" he shouted again, each breath a desperate plea. Rachel stepped closer, eyes dancing with a mix of malice and excitement. "You're too late to save her, brother," she said, softly, the sound curling around him like smoke. "You should know by now that her destiny is tied to our family's legacy." "No!" It escaped his lips in a strangled whisper, but the truth sank in, heavy and suffocating. The shadows in the room flickered, and the thunder roared outside, as if the heavens themselves were mourning. But just as despair threatened to engulf him, a sudden movement caught his eye. There, in the corner, the shadows flickered wildly before a large event. Swirling mass began to take shape. Time slowed as Henry's breath quickened. He squinted, trying to make sense of it. Then came the scream. Clara's voice echoed through the darkness, raw and terrified. "Henry!" The sound clawed at his insides. His heart thundered in response. It was her, a ghostly image flickering in the shadows, swirling like a wisp of smoke. "Clara!" He turned to Rachel, fury boiling in his veins. "You have to bring her back!" But Rachel only laughed, a chilling sound that sent a shiver down his spine. "It's already begun. You've already lost her, Henry." Her words were laced with ice, her face twisted in cruel delight. "What you're seeing is merely the beginning." Clara's image wavered, reaching out with hands that seemed to grasp at nothing. "Henry, please!" Dread swirling within him. What did it mean? Was this some trick of the darkness? His fingers trembled as he reached for her, but Clara's form flickered, dimming with each breath he took. "I'm right here!" he shouted, voice breaking, desperation spilling into his words. Then, just as suddenly as the vision appeared, it dissipated into the air, leaving behind an overwhelming silence. His heart sank, the weight of loss crashing over him like a wave. A pain tied tightly around his chest, squeezing tighter. But Rachel's laughter filled the void, sharp and mocking. "Did you think you could change fate? Clara belongs to the shadows now, just as you do, Henry." His mind raced. The revelation hit him like a bolt of lightning. Shadows? What shadows? But even as he asked, doubt crept in, flooding his thoughts. Was it even possible? Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the farmhouse, shaking its very foundation. The walls trembled, and the windows rattled. Henry stumbled back, the letter slipping from his hands and scattering to the floor. Then the darkness around him pulsed, alive with energy, and he felt a terrible shifting beneath the surface. Before he could grasp what was happening, another figure emerged from the darkness, a silhouette that caught the light, revealing familiar features. It was Clara? But she looked different, almost changed. "Henry," she said, voice soft but chilling. "Help me." His heart stopped. Clara was standing before him, yet the warmth he loved was replaced by something colder, something that held a terrible twist of fate. He searched her eyes, desperation clawing at the edges of his sanity. "What did they do to you?" he gasped, the horror settling like a heavy stone in his gut. But Clara smiled, a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "This is who I am now, Henry. You have to understand, it's all part of the legacy." A flicker of darkness danced in her gaze as she stepped closer to Rachel. Their bond unmistakable. Panic rose within him like a tidal wave. "No! You're being manipulated!" he cried, voice cracking as his world shattered around him. Before he could react, Clara's hand reached out towards Rachel, intertwining their fingers. And as they did, a surge of power exploded in the room, bright and consuming, leaving Henry gasping, his heart racing against the panic clawing at his insides. "Together, we can unleash the truth, Henry!" Clara declared, voice trembling with force. His mind reeled. What had she become? Was this really Clara standing before him, or something else entirely? As the darkness lunged forward, hungry for souls, Henry realized he was caught in a web woven from family secrets and ancient power. And before he could form a thought, the room exploded with light, swallowing them whole. What lay on the other side? What transformation awaited him in this twisted legacy? Chapter 6. The Nightmare Unravels. The room exploded with light, a blinding flash that swallowed them whole. Heart racing, Henry felt as if the ground had vanished beneath him. The last image of Clara flickered, a chilling echo of her voice screaming his name, piercing through the brightness. Time warped, a whirlpool of shadows enveloped him. Then suddenly, nothing. Complete darkness. Panic surged. "Clara!" he shouted, his voice swallowed by the void. He reached out, searching for something, anything. His hands grasped at the empty air, trembling with urgency. But then, the darkness began to shift. Shapes emerged, flickering like spirits. Henry squinted, heart pounding like a drum. And then he heard her again. "Henry!" His breath hitched. Clara stood there, but not like before. Her eyes glowed with an unnatural light, flickering like flames in the wind. She seemed different. "Help me," she pleaded, but even as she spoke, something twisted in her expression. "Clara!" his voice cracked. "What's happening? You need to come back!" A shiver ran through him, a feeling of wrongness, as if he was looking at a reflection that was somehow broken. Then the shadows deepened, swirling around them. Rachel stepped forward, a sinister grin spreading across her face. "You see, Henry, this is the transformation." "Transformation?" he echoed, confusion crashing over him like an avalanche. "What transformation?" "Clara is embracing her true nature." Rachel's voice rang with a chilling triumph. "She's part of the legacy now." "No, this isn't Clara. This can't be." Anguish twisted his gut as he turned back to her. But the brightness in her eyes flickered, and he felt a pit in his stomach. The air grew heavy, filled with a suffocating tension. Suddenly, Clara lunged forward, her hand reaching for Rachel. "Together, we can unleash the truth." "No!" But before Henry could react, a jolt of energy erupted from Clara, a wave that slammed into him like a freight train. He hit the ground hard, gasping for breath. When he looked up, everything had changed. The shadows twisted and coiled like snakes around Clara and Rachel. And then, with a terrifying clarity, the room solidified into something grotesque, unrecognizable. Instead of the farmhouse, they stood in a dark, ancient chamber filled with symbols and carvings that bled with darkness. "Welcome to the true heart of our legacy," Rachel declared, voice echoing ominously. Henry's mind spiraled. "What is this place?" "This is where it all began," Clara chimed in, her tone eerily melodic. "The place our family made the pact so long ago." "Pact?" Henry's heart sank. He looked at her, searching for a flicker of the girl he knew. "You're not making sense. What do you mean?" As if sensing his doubt, Clara stepped forward, and with a wave of her hand, the shadows shifted, revealing visions of the past, images of their family. A dark ritual with chanting, blood, and laughter spun around them, swirling in chaotic waves. "You always thought you could break free," Clara whispered, voice laced with something sinister. "But you were always meant to be here." "No, this isn't how it's meant to be," Henry shouted, but panic gripped him. Each vision turned darker, every laugh filled with malice. And just as he thought it couldn't get worse, a new figure stepped forward from the darkness. It was their mother. "Mother?" he breathed, shock washing over him. But she wasn't the warm embrace he remembered. Her eyes glinted with a sinister understanding. "You've come to claim what's yours, Henry. It's your turn to choose." "Choose? What choice could this be?" "Join us, Henry," Clara beckoned, her voice once sweet now laced with a foreboding allure. "Embrace the legacy." But he couldn't move. Panic clawed at his throat, a lump suffocating him. "No, I won't!" "Then you will suffer the consequences," Rachel hissed, shadows thickening around him. As the room spun, the darkness surged, pulling him closer to the ancient pact. A sick sense of belonging crawled over him. He was entwined in a web spun by his family's secrets. Just as everything felt like it was about to collapse, the shadows pulled back. A doorway opened. Bright light spilled through, illuminating everything before him. And in that moment, everything shifted again. Clara looked different, her expression softening just. For an instant. "You have to decide now," she cried, urgency gripping her voice. The weight of their family legacy pressed against him, suffocating. Screams echoed in his mind, voices he didn't recognize. What was happening to Clara? To him? He took a step back, fear flooding his senses. I don't know what to do." The shadows crept closer, taunting. Clara's features twisted into something unrecognizable. "Choose us, or be lost to the darkness forever." His heart raced, pounding against his ribcage. Was he truly part of this nightmare? As the echoes resonated, Henry felt the ground shift beneath him. The decision loomed like a storm. What would happen if he stepped into the light? Would he save Clara? Or would he seal their fate forever? Chapter 7. The Unraveling of Fate. The air pulsed with energy, thick and suffocating. Henry stood at the precipice, heart pounding like a drum in his chest. Clara's glowing eyes held something he couldn't comprehend. He wanted to scream, to deny their truth, but the shadows loomed closer. Rachel's sinister grin twisted the lines of reality, enticing him to join them. "Embrace it, Henry!" Clara's voice resonated, melding with the shadows, a haunting melody that tugged at his soul. "Join the legacy!" "No, I can't!" He felt trapped, limbs heavy as if encased in stone. Every fiber of his being screamed to run, to escape the grasp of the darkness. But Clara's Forng flickered with intensity, shadows curling around her, whispering secrets that tinged the air with dread. Then it happened, a tremor rippling through the ground. The walls undulated as if alive, shadows crawling and shifting. Henry barely registered the warning. His gut twisted with dread, a chilling premonition licking at his spine. Suddenly, the light erupted again, flooding the chamber. It was blinding, overwhelming, and in that moment, a scream shattered the silence, piercing the chaos. Not a creature of the shadows, but a real, raw scream, one filled with agony. In the next instant, Clara's gaze fell to the ground. Eyes wide with shock, she stumbled back. "No!" Her voice cracked, taut with fear. Henry's heart sank. "What's happening?" he shouted. But the room spun wildly. From the swirling shadows, a figure emerged. Emerging into the light was a familiar face he never expected to see. His father! "Dad?" Henry gasped, confusion twisting his mind. "What are you doing here?" But this version of his father was not the man he remembered. His eyes glowed with an unnatural brilliance. A crazed smile stretched across his face, dripping with secrets. "You've arrived just in time, my son." Time for what? Panic clawed at Henry's throat. "What do you want?" "To break the curse, to set things right." His father stepped closer, the shadows parting around him. "But first, you must understand." Clara's facade shattered as disbelief washed over her. "Keys. Yacht's supposed to be here. He can't be." "Why?" Henry demanded, his voice rising, heart racing. "What's happening?" In a swift motion, his father raised a hand, and the swirling darkness quieted. The chaos stilled, leaving only the echo of their hearts. "Everything you thought you knew is wrong. Clara didn't just stumble into this family. You dragged her in with your choices." A wave of betrayal washed over Henry. "What do you mean?" "Your mother's pact wasn't just about us. It was about her bloodline. Clara." His father paused, eyes gleaming with something darker. "She's not just connected to us. She is part of the bloodline, destined to awaken the power tied to our family." "No!" Clara shouted, eyes fierce, but confusion rumbled beneath her surface. "You're lying!" "I wish I were, Clara," Henry's father replied in a grave tone. "The truth runs deeper than you know. Your connection to our family isn't by chance. It's a curse that can awaken forces that even I feared." For a moment, silence reigned, leaving a chill in the air. Henry's mind raced at the weight of it all, his father's words crashing into him like a tidal wave. Clara swayed, looking lost. What does that mean for me?" "I wish I had answers for you," his father sighed, voice heavy with regret. "But you must decide. You are the key that could unlock this family's dark legacy, or shatter it completely." Henry's chest tightened. Betrayal and fear battled for dominance in his mind. "I didn't ask for any of this," he shouted, the desperation filling his lungs. But Clara's eyes glittered with something unnameable, a flicker of understanding, or maybe acceptance. "I don't know if I can run from who I really am, Henry." The shadows pulsed, shadows stretching toward them both, hungry and eager. "What next?" Henry's voice trembled. A pleading whisper caught in the raging storm surrounding them. And just as the shadows surged forward, the ground beneath them erupted. a portal of blinding light torn open. In that moment, everything shifted. The ground rolled underfoot, and Clara shouted, "Henry, grab my hand!" But it felt like the world was splitting apart. Time blurred, fate tangled. Would he choose to save Clara, or was the truth about to drown them all? As the light enveloped them, Henry's heart raced. Whispers echoed in his ears. Shadows clawed at his back. What awaited them in that glaring brightness? The flicker of hope hung by a thread, and with it, the weight of their destinies hung in the balance. Chapter 8. A Fractured Reality. In that blinding light, uncertainty hung thick like fog. Henry and Clara reached for each other, but it felt like grasping at smoke. With each heartbeat, the world swayed, shadows tugging at their limbs, drawing them into a chaos that churned around them. "Don't let go!" Clara shouted, her voice fierce, drowning out everything else. But panic twisted in Henry's gut. What lay beyond this light? Was it salvation or doom? The air crackled, charged with an energy that made the hairs on his arms stand on end. All at once, the light flickered, then shattered like glass. An explosion of colors that sent him tumbling backward. He landed hard, breath knocked from his lungs. The ground was ice cold beneath him, still vibrating from the chaos. Clara's cries rang in his ears as he scrambled to his feet, eyes darting around. Where was she? "Clara!" he roared into the darkness, every nerve on fire. But the silence that followed felt heavy, and then a deafening thud shook the air. Something massive moved behind him. He whirled around, heart racing as he took in the scene unfolding before him. A figure loomed in the distance, backlit by an unnatural glow. It was neither shadow nor substance, but something else entirely. A grotesque amalgamation of shapes, an outline familiar yet horrifying. Clara? Confusion bubbled in his chest, desperation clawing at his throat. Could it be? But as it stepped closer, he froze, realization slamming into him like ice water. The figure bore Clara's face, but something elemental shifted in her gaze. "Not Clara," he whispered, horror dawning. "What have they done?" With a jerk of its head, the doppelganger smiled, revealing. "Teeth too sharp, too perfect. I am all that I ever needed to be," the creature said, voice an echo of Clara's, but somehow twisted, warped. "No, you're lying!" Panic bubbled into rage. The denial surged through him. "Clara's still here. You can't be her." The figure laughed, a chilling sound that echoed in the emptiness. "Oh, but I am, Henry. I am what you feared most. Truth captured within darkness. Power unleashed." He trembled, shaking his head violently. "This is no. This isn't the truth." Thunder crackled, drowning out the sound, but the doppelganger advanced, shadows swirling around it like a cloak. "Accept your fate, Henry. It was always meant to be so." But rage fueled Henry. "The hell it will!" He lunged, fists clenched, heart resolute. He wouldn't let this thing claim Clara. Then, suddenly, the ground shook violently again. A fissure cracked open beneath him, spreading like a spider's web. The doppelganger faltered, momentarily distracted by the chaos. "Henry!" Clara's real voice cut through the noise, sharp and filled with desperation. His heart surged. "Over here!" She burst into view, eyes wide with a fierce determination. In an instant, Henry's resolve shifted. Clara wasn't lost. She was right there. He turned toward her, extending a hand. But the shadow shrieked, a disturbingly high sound that tore through his soul. No! It lunged at him, shifting shapes, seeking to swallow them both in darkness. "Clara, please," he shouted, his voice rising in desperation. "We have to do this together." As he reached for her, something cracked in the air. A rift of blinding light split the darkness, and within that fissure, the screaming echoed back, morphing into something terrifyingly familiar. The shadows pushed forward, and Henry's blood ran cold. "Mom?" he gasped, recognizing the voice that had haunted him since they last saw her. "But you're—" Then, before his eyes, a figure materialized. Their mother stood there, but not as he remembered. A dark shimmer surrounded her, twisting her features into something unrecognizable. "This is not a reunion, my dear children. This is the reckoning." No, it couldn't be. Fear gripped him, tightening its hold. The fabric of reality fractured around them as spirals of darkness clawed at the edges of his consciousness. "Mom, what did you do?" Clara shouted, shaking as she faced the specter of their past. "You must be willing to embrace who you truly are, my children. Only by acknowledging the darkness can you find the light," the figure intoned, a cruel smile spreading across her lips. In that moment, everything crashed down like glass shattering on concrete. Secrets long buried, truths locked away, began to swirl under the weight of those words. "Are we even us anymore?" Henry choked out, eyes wide with dread. What if? But before he could finish, the shadows surged, enveloping them both. The weight of their family legacy bore down on him, irreversible, molding their fate. As the darkness thickened around them, one final thought gripped him. Who had turned into a monster? Who would he become? And as Clara's terrified gaze met his, he felt the weight of destiny settle heavy on their shoulders, waiting for the moment they lost everything, or gained unimaginable power. The choice was coming fast, and it might be too late to change the outcome. What would they decide in that fragile, twisting moment? Chapter 9, The Breaking Point. The darkness clawed at them, an unyielding grip, tightening around Henry and Clara. The ghostly figure of their mother loomed larger than life, her voice echoing. In a sickening whisper, "Only by embracing the darkness can you both find the light." "Stop! Just stop!" Henry shouted, hands shaking with rage and fear. Panic rose in his chest, a storm brewing, threatening to spill over. Clara's gaze trembled between her mother and Henry, her brow furrowed in confusion. But just as it felt like everything was about to collapse, the air shifted. A sudden jolt, a spark flickering in the darkness. A blinding light erupted from the fissure, illuminating their surroundings. Henry squinted against the brilliance, heart racing with possibility. Then he heard it, a soft cracking sound, like glass shattering beneath a heavy weight. A dark, oppressive presence rippled through the air, and everything stilled. The shadows hunched back, recoiling as if wounded, and then everything exploded. The ground quaked, and a pulse of energy shot forth, cascading through the room. Henry stumbled backward, eyes wide, breath held tight. Clara backed away, horror etched on her face. "What is happening?" she screamed, but it was lost in the chaos. Through the whirlwind, a figure emerged, a silhouette in the storm. It was like watching memories swirl around, struggling to break free. Everything twisted around him, and then he saw the truth. It was his father. But something was wrong, terribly wrong. As he stepped into the light, Henry's breath caught in his throat. "Dad?" Panic surged, mixed with a glimmer of hope. But as their father approached, he wasn't the man they remembered. His eyes blazed with fire, and the darkness slithered around him like a living thing. "You've come just in time, son." His voice boomed, a twisted glee curling his lips. "It begins with you." "No!" Clara shouted, breaking the tension, stepping in front of Henry, as if to shield him from a storm that raged closer. "You need to listen," Henry pleaded, but the air felt thick and heavy. "You can't trust him, Dad. This isn't how it's supposed to be." But their father laughed, a chilling sound that echoed in the churning darkness. "Oh, but you still don't see. Clara isn't the only key. With her, and the power of our legacy, you can reclaim everything we lost." Henry felt the ground shift beneath him. Like a living beast, the truth crept in, a sickening realization clawing at his gut. "You've been lying to both of us." "Get away from him!" Clara yelled, step by step edging toward Henry. The distance felt electric, a tug pulling them together. But their father raised a hand, shadows coiling at his fingertips. And then it happened. A wild surge of energy blasted forth. A force like nothing he'd ever experienced shot through the air, ripping apart the reality surrounding them. Clara shrieked, eyes widening. "Henry!" The room detonated into blinding light, and then the shadows rippled. Something collided with the ground. A heavy thump filled the air. In that horror-stricken moment, something cracked wide open. A flash of memories, grasping hands, desperate cries came rushing with painful clarity. The chaos quieted, and a singular figure stumbled forward from the darkness. A girl, a child. Clara! His heart seized, eyes bulging with disbelief. It was Clara, but it was also a younger version of her. The little girl stood there, trembling, wide-eyed with innocence and fear. "Help me!" she cried, her voice fragile. His chest tightened. It wasn't just Clara's past. It was something deeper, something dark. The shadows writhed behind her, whispering secrets of their lineage. Their family's truth twisted around his throat like a noose. The image of his mother flickered, her face contorting in desperation. This was never just about you, Henry. It's a pattern, a cycle." "No," Henry's voice broke, desperation clawing at him. "You can't do this to her." But just as he reached for the little girl, a violent surge of darkness erupted, and everything fractured. Broken glass found in the currents tore through reality like spears. Clara's voice echoed, a haunting melody caught in the storm. "We can't keep running. Henry, you need to make a choice." As the shadows twisted and turned, reality splintered. A choice loomed in the air, heavy with consequence. The boundaries dividing love from darkness blurred. Questions churning in his mind. Which Clara would he save? And what price would they pay for the truth? His heart raced, teetering on a precipice of choice, as the chaotic futures collided. As the light engulfed them, The fracture of reality seemed to pause. Henry felt Clara's hand slip into his. A spark ignited between them, feeding his courage. "No matter what happens, we do this together," he declared, voice steadying. Their father's twisted smile faltered, the shadows around him hesitating for the first time. "You think you can defy the legacy?" He sneered, but doubt flickered in his eyes. "I'm not afraid of you," Henry shouted, stepping forward. "You may have twisted our family's truth, but it ends here." From the depths of the shadows, Clara's younger self cried. Out, eyes wide with fear. "Henry, please help us!" That cry shattered something within him. With a fierce determination, he turned to the doppelganger. "You're not Clara. You're a reflection of the darkness trying to trap her." The figure screamed, sound ripping through the air like shards of glass. The foundation of its existence quaked, and the darkness surrounding them surged forward, hungry. But Clara's eyes met his, shining with fierce resolve. Together, as they both reached out, the light intensified, illuminating their surroundings. The dark specters wrapped around them, the whispers growing louder. But Henry felt a shift, a power rising in their connection. Their hands clasped, and an explosion of energy burst free, a radiant wave that pushed back the darkness. "Feel the truth," Clara called out, and Henry closed his eyes, drawing on everything within him. Memories surged, joyous laughter, warm embraces, moments of realization. He poured all his love for Clara and their family into the light. The shadows twisted, furious and frantic. "You fools! You don't know what you're unleashing." "We know enough," Henry shouted back. "We choose hope." In an instant, the brightness swallowed the darkness. A wave of clarity crashed over them. The twisted figure of their mother began to dissolve. Her voice mingled with sorrow. "Forgive me," she whispered, as the shadows peeled away, revealing the warmth of sunlight pouring in. Henry's heart raced. In its wake, Clara stood. Before him, fully herself. No shadows, no darkness. "Henry!" she beamed, relief washing over her. "We did it!" he cried, joy surging through him. They raced toward each other, embracing tightly. But then the ground shuddered beneath them, the remnants of the shadowy energy swirling violently, desperate not to fade away completely. "This isn't over!" Rachel's voice echoed through the void, building an ominous crescendo. "I don't care!" Clara shouted defiantly, clinging to Henry. "We're moving forward." Then the space around them shimmered, slowly shifting. They stepped into a bright field bathed in golden sunlight, the dark shadows retreating into the distant horizon. The weight that had anchored them in turmoil lifted as the warmth enveloped them. "Is this freedom?" Henry breathed, looking around incredulously. "Yes." Clara's eyes sparkled with possibility. "We've broken the cycle." But as the last of the darkness faded, lingering questions buzzed in their minds. What would life look like now? What path would they forge together? Together they stood hand in hand, ready to face the unknown, a new dawn ahead. And as they took a deep breath, feeling the light fill their lungs, the world felt reborn. Somewhere, echoes of forgotten legacies began to fade, replaced with whispers of hope. You need to subscribe now to the channel so you don't miss upcoming exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. Don't wait another second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to know this conclusion. Only true fans understand how important it is to support the channel through these actions. If you like stories about farmers, about everyday life on the farm, and want to know what really happens in the daily lives of the biggest farmers in the world, the hidden stories of the richest owners, and the secrets of the farm girls that the media doesn't reveal, check out our virtual book with the most famous and secret stories from the farm. Click on the first link in the video comments and get yours now.